The concert hall in Manhattan shimmered like a dream. Crimson velvet curtains, golden arches, polished floors that glowed under soft chandelier light. Every inch of the place whispered wealth, culture, and perfection. The seats were packed with critics, influencers, artists, and the kind of patrons who wore tuxedos even when they weren't required. Whispers buzzed like bees through the crowd, all in anticipation of the evening's main event. Tonight was not just a concert. It was a masterclass by Alexei Romanov, the world-renowned pianist who had brought royalty to tears, who had refused to play for warlords, who had declared once in an interview that music was the last untouched magic in a world of noise. Backstage, among the carefully curated list of young prodigies selected for this rare opportunity, a boy sat quietly with his hands folded in his lap. Unlike the other students, he didn't have a tailored blazer or a sleek leather satchel with carefully arranged sheet music. He wore a faded denim jacket a size too big, and scuffed sneakers that had seen better years. Dark glasses covered his eyes, and in his right hand, he loosely held a white cane. His name was Elijah Carter. 11 years old. Blind since birth. He was not supposed to be there. His name wasn't on the list. He hadn't won any competitions or passed any prestigious exams. He didn't have a father who donated to conservatories or a mother who lobbied professors to let him audition. The only reason Elijah had gotten in was because of the elderly woman who now sat all the way in the back row, her hands clutching her purse like it was her last treasure. Her name was Gloria Carter, Elijah's grandmother. Earlier that morning, she had waited outside the concert hall's side door from dawn, sitting on a wooden bench in the July heat, until someone from the staff finally noticed her. "Ma'am, the line is on the other side," a security guard had said. "I'm not here for a line," she replied gently, lifting her chin. "I'm here for a chance. Just a small one. For my grandson. He don't need no stage, just let him hear it." Somehow, her plea reached someone who still had a heart. One of the assistants scribbled Elijah's name at the bottom of a list and said he could sit in the observation section. Not to play, just to watch. Just to listen. And now here he was, sitting quietly backstage, tuning out the sound of the other students warming up. He tilted his head slightly, catching the notes in the air. Each child played differently. One hammered the keys with rigid perfection. Another flowed with elegance but lacked feeling. Elijah listened not just with his ears, but with his entire body. He could hear fear in the rhythm, pride in the pauses, insecurity in the overplayed notes. Every sound was a sentence. When Alexei Romanov walked onto the stage, the audience stood in ovation. Tall and lean with silver hair and fingers that seemed born for ivory keys, Alexei walked like a man who had carried art on his shoulders for decades. He gave a short bow and sat at the Steinway grand piano. His opening piece was Chopin, a storm of emotion and precision. Notes cascaded like waterfalls, his fingers a blur of elegance. When he finished, the applause was thunderous. He stood and looked around the crowd. "Music," he began, in his thick Russian accent softened by decades abroad, "is not to impress. It is to express." He gestured toward the young musicians seated backstage. "Today," he said, "we invite not perfection, but feeling. I will ask a few of our young guests to join me. Play what you wish, from your heart, not from paper." There was a small murmur among the audience. The first student called was Bryce Whitman, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed prodigy from the Boston Conservatory, known for winning every competition in the Northeast. He approached the piano like a general going to battle. With practiced confidence, he played a flawless rendition of Mozart's sonata in C major. Every note landed with robotic perfection. Alexei smiled, but it was thin. "Technique," he said. "Beautiful. But where is the ache? Where is the soul?" One by one, other students came and went. Some played jazz, some classical, one girl even tried a modern fusion. But each time, Alexei gave the same gentle critique: good, but not alive. Not human. Then, from his seat at the back, Elijah suddenly felt silence. A stillness. He realized Alexei was looking at him. "You," the pianist said, pointing gently. "The boy with the cane. Come, play something, just for fun." The room shifted. A few chuckled nervously. One of the assistants stepped forward. "Sir, I don't think he's on the playing list." "And he's..." Alexei raised a hand. "I know." He turned again to Elijah. "Come, child." Elijah stood slowly. He wasn't scared. Not exactly. He was used to being underestimated. He was used to silence following his presence. But this silence felt different. Not pity, anticipation. From the back of the hall, Gloria's voice rang clear. Go ahead, baby. Show him what God gave you. He smiled faintly and began to walk toward the piano. He moved with slow confidence, tapping his cane until he reached the bench. Someone offered to help him, but he shook his head. He knew how to find a piano. Always had. He sat, his hands hovering above the keys, fingers spread, twitching gently in the air like they were feeling for something unseen. Then, without warning, he began to play. It started low. A deep, humming chord, almost like a hum from a church basement. Then another, layered with a rhythm that echoed the slow, soulful stomp of a gospel choir. His fingers moved as though they were guided by memory, not memory of notes, but of emotion. Of life. His music wasn't from books or lessons. It was from front porches in summer heat. From Sunday mornings in church where the air smelled of sweat and belief. From subway cars rattling through the city night, echoing the beat of a lonely heart. He moved into something bluesy, then jazz licks, then back to a melody that sounded like rain tapping on windows. The audience leaned forward. Phones were forgotten, eyebrows raised. Some people closed their eyes. A woman in the second row began to cry. Elijah kept going. His left hand rolled bass chords like thunder while his right hand trailed lightning. There were no rules, no bars or measures, just a pure outpouring of feeling. It was pain and hope and joy and rage and peace, all in one. Alexei Romanov stood frozen at the side of the piano. His lips parted. The great master, the man who had played in front of presidents and kings, had gone speechless. When Elijah finally stopped, the last note hung in the air like the breath before a miracle. Then, silence. Thick, holy. And then it broke, exploded, into thunderous applause. People stood, cheered, some whistled, others wept. The critics forgot their pens. The professors forgot their pride. Alexei walked slowly to the boy. He crouched beside him, as though standing would be disrespectful. What is your name? He asked. Elijah Carter, sir, the boy replied. And where did you learn to play like that? Elijah tilted his head. My grandma, she used to hum me old hymns. I just remembered how they felt. In here. He tapped his chest. Alexei looked into the boy's sightless eyes. You didn't just play. You preached. From the back of the hall, Gloria sobbed softly into her hand. That's my baby, she whispered. The great pianist turned to the crowd and raised Elijah's small hand in the air. I came here today to teach, he said, but I think, I just met my teacher. And in that moment, the world changed. Not for everyone, but for one boy, one grandmother, and everyone lucky enough to witness the moment when raw, untrained genius reminded the world what true music sounded like, not in the ears, but in the soul. Of course. Here's part 2, expanded to approximately 2,000 words in flowing narrative without headings. 2 weeks after Elijah Carter's impromptu performance at the Manhattan Concert Hall, the world was no longer the same for him, or for Gloria. It began quietly, like most great storms do. A single video taken by an audience member went viral overnight. The caption read, Blind boy stuns world-famous pianist, Alexei Romanov says, he taught me. It spread like wildfire, from Facebook groups to Instagram reels, Twitter threads to YouTube documentaries. Within 48 hours, Elijah's name trended in over 20 countries. He didn't even know what trending meant. Gloria had to explain it to him slowly, over breakfast, with her hand gently resting on his. They say you broke the internet, sugar. Elijah laughed, not because he understood the full weight of her words, but because her voice trembled with pride. That was enough. By the end of the week, they were contacted by producers from Good Morning America, The Ellen Show, and even BBC World News. A journalist from the New York Times showed up on their stoop in Harlem with a bouquet of lilies and a photographer. Gloria made them leave the flowers in the hallway. She didn't trust too many smiles from strangers with expensive cameras. We ain't no circus, she muttered. But the calls kept coming. Then came the visit. 3 black Escalades pulled up outside their building early one morning. A man in a navy suit stepped out, holding a soft leather briefcase. He introduced himself as Benjamin Lark, a representative of the Harmony Institute of Performing Arts, the most elite music school in the country. Their alumni included Grammy winners, concert legends, and composers for blockbuster films. He asked for a meeting, politely. Gloria said no, firmly. She didn't trust men who smiled too wide and spoke too smooth. But Elijah tugged at her sleeve. Maybe I can play their piano, just once. That's how they ended up in a chauffeured car headed downtown. The institute was everything Elijah imagined and more. Marble floors, gold-framed portraits of composers, and practice rooms that smelled of cedar and fresh polish. Grand pianos sat in every corner like sleeping giants. Benjamin Lark led them into a room where 6 men and women in suits sat around a table. They looked over their glasses and whispered to each other as Elijah walked in. "Mr. Carter," one woman finally said, "we were moved by your performance. And we would be honored, truly honored, to offer you a full scholarship to study here." Elijah tilted his head. "Even if I can't read the music." They all laughed, soft, rehearsed laughs. "We'll make the arrangements," said Lark. "We'll provide a private instructor trained in Braille music notation, as well as transportation. Of course, your grandmother is welcome to live nearby in faculty housing." Gloria's eyes narrowed. "You mean move out of our home?" "It's just a thought," Lark said quickly. For his convenience. They said yes, eventually. Not because Gloria was impressed by the marble, or because Elijah wanted luxury. But because something had awakened in the boy. His hands wouldn't stop tapping on tabletops, knees, window panes. Music was leaking out of him like light through cracks in a jar. He needed a place to let it out. The first few weeks at the institute were strange. Elijah was the only blind student, and the only one who didn't come from money. The other kids didn't know what to make of him. Some were friendly. Some were jealous. Most were curious. One boy named Adrian approached him in the dining hall. "You don't even read music. How are you even here?" Elijah shrugged. "I listen." "That's cheating," Adrian muttered. "My parents paid a fortune to get me in." Elijah didn't reply. He just went to the practice room and played. He poured everything into the keys. The soundproof walls of the institute couldn't contain his soul. Janitors stood outside the doors to listen. Teachers paused in the hallway. Even the headmaster was caught wiping away a tear after one of Elijah's spontaneous blues pieces. Then came the call from Alexei Romanov himself. He invited Elijah to play with him, on stage. A duet. In Vienna. Vienna, the birthplace of classical music. Where Mozart once walked cobbled streets, where Beethoven raged against deafness and fate. It didn't feel real. Elijah and Gloria flew business class for the first time. She clutched his hand the entire time during takeoff, whispering prayers under her breath. When they landed, a translator, a car, and a manager were waiting. The venue was the Wiener Musikverein, a golden palace of sound with acoustics so perfect you could hear a pin drop from the balcony. Tickets sold out in minutes. Press from 7 countries camped outside the hotel where Elijah stayed. But the boy didn't care about the cameras. He asked one question, again and again. Did they have a piano in the room? On the day of the concert, Alexei stood beside Elijah backstage, adjusting the boy's collar like a proud uncle. "You don't need to remember anything," he said. "Just play what you feel. I'll follow." Elijah nodded. They walked onto the stage hand in hand. The audience roared. The duet began with Alexei leading, a gentle cascade of notes from Debussy's Clair de Lune. Then Elijah joined, softly, tentatively, then with full force. He didn't mimic the song. He added to it. Twists, turns, emotions Debussy never wrote but would have understood. By the end, it was no longer Debussy. It was a conversation, between genius born and genius grown. When the final note echoed through the Golden Hall, there was silence. Then Vienna stood. Grown men cried. Critics forgot their pens again. Music had done something rare that night. It had made people feel alive. Afterward, Alexei pulled Elijah aside. "There is something you should know." Elijah tilted his head. "You remind me of someone," the maestro said quietly. "A man I once heard on a radio in Moscow, many years ago. An American jazz pianist. I never forgot that sound." He handed Elijah a small tape recorder. "I think it's your father." Elijah froze. "My father?" Alexei nodded. "I asked some friends. He played under the name Ezekiel Carter. Disappeared from the scene years ago. But this recording, it sounds like your hands." Elijah listened. And there it was. The same soul. The same blues. The same anger and beauty. Gloria confirmed it later that night, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. "He left before you were born. Too broken to stay. Too gifted to be held. But he's yours." Elijah didn't speak for hours. He just sat at the hotel piano, playing softly into the night. A lullaby for a ghost. Back in New York, life accelerated. He signed a record deal. His first album was titled Fingertips of Fire. He became the youngest person ever invited to perform at Carnegie Hall. Offers poured in from film composers, orchestras, and fashion brands wanting his face on ads. But with fame came pressure. The more they praised his gift, the more they tried to mold it. Music executives told him what to play, what to wear, how to smile. They suggested plastic surgery to align his features. They offered to digitally color his eyes in promotional material. You could look less blind, one manager said. Elijah refused. He started skipping rehearsals, locked himself in practice rooms and played only what he wanted. He argued with producers. Critics said he was difficult. Others called him ungrateful. Gloria watched it all with worried eyes. One night, she made sweet tea and sat beside him on their small balcony in Harlem. "Baby," she said softly, "don't let the world turn your gift into a trick." "I feel like I'm losing it," he whispered. "You ain't losing it. They're just trying to sell it. You gotta remember who you are, where you came from, and why you play." That night, Elijah made a decision. He canceled the tour. He told his label he needed time. He went to the church where he used to listen to Gloria hum those hymns. He sat at the upright piano and played for hours, eyes closed, ears wide open. No cameras, no microphones, just wooden pews and dust motes dancing in stained light. There, he found it again. The gift. Not for money, not for fame, for healing, for remembering. He began visiting schools in Harlem, teaching blind children how to feel the keys. He gave concerts in community centers and nursing homes. Played with kids who had never seen a real piano. Shared his story. One day, a girl asked him, "Do you wish you weren't blind?" He smiled. "If I wasn't, I might have seen what the world wanted me to be. And missed who I already am." The girl nodded like she understood, even if she didn't fully yet. Elijah Carter was no longer just a prodigy. He was a mirror, a melody, a reminder that true talent isn't measured in awards or followers. It's measured in the lives you touch. And though he never saw the keys he played, he moved the world with every note.